Metabolism. What is it? Does it help you lose weight? Does it help you gain weight? Who knows? That's what we're going to talk about today on this episode of the Mind, Body, and Food podcast. That's our live studio audience, people watching and listening. And I'm one of your hosts, Zach Scholl. And I have with me, as always, registered dietitian Jillian Foley. Jillian, how are we doing today?
I'm good. Hey, guys. Happy to talk about this one.
You know, it's funny. You always ask people how they're doing. And it's like, why do we, I guess you just trying to be pleasant. Like most people, like, not that I don't want to know how someone's doing, but it's like they usually say, okay.
That's so funny that you even, that's really funny that you even said that. So like, you know how like when you see someone and you're like, hey, how are you? I don't do that because I feel like it's insincere. So I just say hi to people. And my dad says to me, he goes, well, Joel, I haven't really listened to any of your podcasts. That's my dad voice. And he goes, but I did listen to the first one. And I feel like when Zach asked you how you were doing, you didn't really give it back to him. And I was like, that's so weird that you're even saying that. And I was like, because like, that's the way I do it. I don't know. I just feel like it's such an like, how are you doing? Can you imagine if you were like, oh, all right, well, I'm happy you asked. I have anxiety about today's topic. I don't really know what to talk about. And I overate breakfast this morning. I'd be like, okay, so I didn't really care.
Exactly. You gotta be careful who you ask that, because you might get more than you asked for.
You do have to be careful. I've asked the wrong people. Turns out I don't care.
Oh, by the way, can we get more of your dad? You know, you don't have to make fun of your dad, but can we get more of your dad's voice on here? That was great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I just think that next time he asks you, I was like, did you listen to the other ones? Well, no, I got better at it. Well, I'm just saying, compared to the first one, I was like, okay, Dad, whatever. I got to tune him out.
Well, guys, you never know what you expect on here on the Mind, Body, Food podcast. It's been a lot of fun so far. I think we're on episode 8, I believe. We just started in June. Julie and I were just looking at the numbers, and we've been growing month after month on YouTube and all the podcast platforms. So really appreciate you guys watching and listening. Jillian, I know you've been getting a lot of great feedback from your patients, right?
Well, so you should mention we have a new episode damn near every Monday. We want to keep it consistent, especially, you know, if you're looking forward to listening to it and you're finding that it's helping you. But I did want to mention numbers and views or not. Last Monday, I think it was, I had 3 separate appointments of mine tell me that they listened to it and it helped them. And not even in like a supportive way, like, oh, I was listening to your podcast and good job. It was more like, so you were mentioning, you know, habit. And I realized that as you were talking about it, it made me realize blah, blah, blah. So like, I think one, I wanted to share that with you because I mean, we should be really proud of that. The whole point of this topic or this podcast is to help people. But 2, here's what it made me realize. So like when the one girl had said that to me, it was about something we had already discussed. And I think because when I'm talking to someone and helping them through it, say it's like you, right? Say you're like, man, I'm struggling with eating too much on Friday nights. I order pizza and I'm eating too much. And I sit there and I'm like, well, if you just pulled yourself out of that scenario, even though you're listening to me and you believe me and you trust me, I mean, there's a small part of you can't help it. That's like, yeah, but she wasn't there. She doesn't know my struggle. So when I'm discussing this with you on here, that person, I'm not talking to them. So they're probably able to hear me without getting like a little defensive, right?
Yeah, it's more of like passively.
Yeah, passive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So they're learning stuff and they're hopefully implementing stuff. And that's why we did this, guys, to help others, because, you know, our numbers are okay. But if we really cared about the numbers, we wouldn't be doing this because
we suck.
Well, it's still new, but, you know, guys, it takes a lot of time and effort out of our schedules and stuff. And we're happy to hear that it's helping people.
Yeah, truly.
Because Jillian, you know, you can ask Jillian. I've sent like every family member, every friend that I've had to her privately to her practice, because that's how much I believe in her. And it's awesome that the podcast is helping other people. So we just wanted to share that with you guys, that we appreciate you listening and watching and supporting us.
Yeah, agreed. That was well said. That was a good point.
And also, don't forget, we have an email address. We want you guys to send us questions. So if you have any topics or any thoughts, whatever, we want to start like a weekly fan mailbag. So send us an email. It's mindbodyfoodpod@gmail.com. So POD. I'll also put the email in the description so you can email us your questions, your feedback. If you want to make fun of us, whatever, it could be anonymous. So send us whatever. Just don't send us any junk mail. Right?
Yeah.
So guys, today we're going to talk about metabolism, because we all hear the word. It's such a funny word too, metabolism. Well, we talked about it. We've heard it. Do we really know what it is? Is your metabolism really making you gain weight or lose weight? That's why we have Jillian here, because she's the expert and she knows the answers to all this stuff. So I'm excited to talk about this today. And Jillian, you actually came up with this topic, right?
Actually, no, someone that listens to our podcast, she was saying how she would love to hear about metabolism.
Oh, awesome. What's her, can we say her name on here?
Yeah, Christy.
Christy?
Yeah.
Shout out to Christy.
One of my faves.
One of Jillian's, well, all of her patients are her favorite, but
they all
she's especially their favorite now because she's giving us some stuff to talk about. So we appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
because, I think I said this to you before. We really do need recommendations because we're so close to it that we forget. You know? So metabolism is a great one. Like, so Zach, I know that you said you looked it up a little bit before you got on here, but had you not looked it up and I was like, pop quiz, what do you think metabolism is? Or give me the definition of metabolism. What would you have said?
I don't do good on quizzes. You're putting me on the spot. No.
That was the point. That's why I didn't tell you I was going to do that.
Pop quiz hot shot. For me, I think it was like how you process your food, which entails, how much fat, how much you burn calories, or how you gain or lose weight depending on your metabolism. And then I was under the impression, it depends on your age, your body type. And it really just helps you either gain weight, or it helps with your processing of foods and gaining or losing weight.
Yeah. I mean, so that was good. That is a piece of metabolism, but for what it's worth, I think that's probably the piece of metabolism people only care about. Is the the body fat or the weight loss or the food piece, right? So I think what people think, and I could be wrong, I could just be assuming, but based on the way I've heard people talk about metabolism before, over the years, is that people think it's more so about the rate, like at which your food gets broken down and absorbed, and whether or not that makes you put on weight. And I think what happens is people tend to confuse metabolism with digestion, which seems like I kind of get it, right? So metabolism is made up of two things. You have anabolism and catabolism, and it's basically metabolism is not like a body fat thing. It's like your body and each cell within your body requires energy and nutrients to generate energy, to sustain life, and to keep every single cell is constantly reproducing. Your skin cells, your brain cells, your muscle cells, even your bone cells. Like, you don't even have the same bones that you were born with. And so they're constantly renewing and reusing and renewing and reusing. And so metabolism is the way that we take our food and it goes into our stomach, into our digestive tract. And I guess you could say this is part of metabolism, and I don't know if there's someone out there to call me out and say that I'm wrong in saying this, but I'm going to say that's not part of metabolism just yet. Right. And so then it gets absorbed, it goes to the liver, it gets absorbed by the cells. And then that's where metabolism starts taking place. and the body is using the energy and getting rid of the waste product, and using the energy and getting rid of the waste product, and it's renewing itself.
So metabolism is like a function, like breathing, sleeping, sweating. Those are all functions. It's like metabolism is like something your body does.
Yeah, it's a function. It is the function. I mean, it is more important than we realize. And I think it's because in today's society, we make it about fat loss. Because when it's so funny. So like, and this statement I'm about to say makes up like a large majority of my patients, especially my female patients. They all think it's their metabolism. All of them.
I've been there before too. So, well, I'm
Yeah.
one of your patients, but yeah, I've been there before.
Yeah. Well, so everything I'm doing with weight loss isn't helping. Therefore, it must be my metabolism. And even funnier, I've had plenty of patients come back and they're like, so I got my thyroid checked. It's not my thyroid. They're like really upset. And I get it. You're like, so I guess it's me, And so, what then? So then for the sake of this conversation, because for the sake of our show, let's go ahead and say 90% of the people that are listening to our show want to lose body fat or want to lose weight. And then, I guess, let's say for the sake of the show, what is metabolism and what does a slow metabolism mean? And can a slow metabolism hinder your progress, right? So the amount of energy or food or calories, we're going to call those the same thing, required by the body is what you take in. And if you have, so if these are your calorie needs, let's use me, for instance. I think my calorie needs right now, I looked it up so we had definitive answers. Let's say I was bedridden. I don't get to eat a lot at all. My calorie needs are 1349, right? So these are my calorie needs. And so for me to have, I guess we could call it an equal balanced metabolism, right? We would say I would need to eat 1349 in order to sustain life, not gain, not lose, nothing. If I ate a little bit less, then what would happen is I would start to lose weight. And what happens is the body uses body fat, mostly. If it gets really bad, it starts to use muscle, but that conversation is not important for this topic. If I were to be fed a little bit more, then I would gain weight. I always forget I'm opposite on here. Yeah. I'm backwards. Now, let's say someone really does have a slow metabolism, because the tool that I use is called Mifflin St. Sure. If you were to go on MyFitnessPal or the Lose It app or something like that and come up with your calories, they're probably using the same equation. It takes height, age, weight, and gender into account. Now, let's say you really do have a slow metabolism, but how do we measure that? It's not measurable yet, unless you were in a hospital and they have a thing that you can breathe in, and then they can actually see your metabolism. But let's say you have, say this is me, same height, same age, same weight, same gender, but this person has a slightly slower metabolism. They have different genes. Then that would mean if they're eating the same amount, that 1349, but their metabolism is slower, that means this one goes down. So even though they'd be eating the same way that I do, now they're overeating. This is something that in my field, with me, I'm not measuring. I'm not having a patient come in and say, oh, well, we're going to look at your family genes and we're going to decipher whether or not your metabolism is slower than someone like myself. And again, we're talking inactive. We're not talking about other things that speed up metabolism. And I wish science went there, but for the sake of not thinking you're a victim to your family's genetics, all that means is you have to adjust the numbers a little bit because it's not much. Like I can't give you a definitive answer, but let's go ahead and say it's a difference of 50 to 100 calories a day. That's not that dramatic. Now, if you are not paying attention and you are an overeater, which when most people are, right? Is that safe to say that when you're not focused on weight loss or leaning out, very few people really do eat just right for themselves? Most people are overeaters. It's not their fault. There's a lot of food available. So,
I mean, just snacking alone, a handful of chips
oh,
here.
sure, it just adds
In the
up.
morning, yeah.
Yeah. Or even let's say like, you're a busy person, you don't eat much during the day, but like you tend to overeat at night. Or same thing, you're a busy person, you don't tend to eat much during the day, but when you're out with your friends on the weekends, you're an overeater. It's not hard. I'm not even making a generalization to say like, oh, this subgroup of people is sloppy. I'm saying like it's far too easy. And if I didn't pay attention, I without a doubt would be an overeater. We really all would be. I mean, it's just for the amount of food that we need, it's readily available. So for someone who has a slower metabolism, if this was my calorie needs and I wasn't paying attention and I always seemed to eat here, and then you pair me with that person, over here, same height, same age, same weight, different genes, and their metabolism's slower. They're also overeating right here, but there they are. And so the bigger the gap on that end, the more weight gain a person will have.
I wonder where this, not that it's a myth. I mean, it is a myth, I guess, for most people. I wonder where this even came from, where we blame metabolism.
Oh God. Social media can't we point our finger? And when I say social media, I mean like, so back when I first started going to school for nutrition, I wouldn't call it social media. I would have called it media.
Yeah, media.
Said it was me watching The View 11 o'clock in the morning after the Today Show, raising my 1-year-old, wondering why I can't get rid of my belly fat, and then going to Cosmopolitan magazine. So like it evolved, but that's where it comes from. Do you have a slow metabolism? Eat these 5 foods. And then everyone comes in and they're like, I think my metabolism's slow. And I'm like, if there were truly, first of all, most people that come in and say that to me are maintaining. Like, technically, when you maintain, you are eating just right for yourself. To have a diagnosed slow metabolism, I don't mean like slightly slower than me genetically. I mean like something is truly wrong with your metabolism. Thyroid is completely out of whack metabolism. You would know it. You would be gaining I had a patient once and he was gaining at such a rapid rate. He couldn't keep his eyes open while sleeping. It was bad. Or while sleeping. Can't keep his eyes open while sleeping. That guy. While driving, like that was bad. That is a slow metabolism. If you are maintaining your weight, you are eating just right for yourself. You're struggling with eating less than just right for yourself. And for what it's worth, that's kind of hard. It's hard. Yeah. We love food and it's everywhere, right?
Yeah. So I guess you can confidently say that it's all a big conspiracy by the media to trick us, to tell us. I like to think I'm pretty smart, but I've been tricked a few times, bought some supplements that are supposed to help your metabolism, but
I have too, and I know better.
Yeah. So it's
I tell myself it's an experiment. You're doing this for your patients.
Yeah. So part of it's a big conspiracy by the media, but the other part is that most people, their metabolism is not slow enough where it's affecting their weight loss or weight gain.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, are there some people out there that truly do have a very slow metabolism and they are just gaining at such a rapid rate, and they're tracking on MyFitnessPal. They're tracking every calorie they put in their mouth, and they're still gaining, sure, but like, what does that represent? Like 2% of the population? Seriously. And vice versa. I'll have people with a very fast metabolism, like just can't seem to gain weight. But when I really sit down with them and they're skinny, they really don't want to eat. Like they can't handle a lot. They feel like they're forcing themselves to eat. So normally it's not a metabolic thing. It's more of a consumption thing.
So there might be a lot of people listening or watching to this who kind of not been holding on to the metabolism thing, but they might have themselves convinced that it is their metabolism. So what, like you just mentioned, you have to track everything you eat and your exercise, your input, output. But if I wanted to get my metabolism checked so that I can cross it off and I can either know that I do have a problem with metabolism or I don't, where do people go to get tested or?
Well, I mean, so you would go to the doctor and have your thyroid checked. I mean, really, that's pretty much all they're doing. I'm sure there's some holistic doctors out there that check other things, but I mean, as far as I know, it's not covered. It's considered, what's the word I'm looking for? Experimental? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, experimental treatment.
Yeah, like it's not covered by health insurance. So that's what they would be looking for. But like I said, you would know it. But I did pull up some numbers. So I thought this would be fun.
Okay.
So your metabolism does slow down with age, because I'm sure there's people listening going, well, what about age? And what about menopause? And yes, there are certain hormones that, like, so for instance, we could be talking to 18-year-old Zach, and he would be allowed to eat far more than what you are eating because your body's still growing, which means your body requires more nutrients, more energy to survive. So you would be able to eat more. And as we get older, our metabolism does slow down. But I looked up some numbers because I thought this would be neat, because again, we talk about slow metabolism, but like, what is slow? Whenever someone's struggling with something and I feel like they're too broad, they're not detailed enough, I'm always like, break it down. What does it even mean? So like, is it 50 calories? Is it 250 calories? So I thought this would be neat. At my age, if I were bedridden, like I said, and it would be 1349. Back when I was 20, which was only a couple years ago. Why are you laughing?
I wasn't laughing.
I thought I heard you laugh.
No, I was coughing. I was coughing.
So back when I was 20, it was 1439. So that's 100 calorie difference in 18 years. But that's neat, right? Like,
yeah,
100 calorie difference. It's not that bad, right? So at 40, which is a long time away from me, it'll be 1339, 10 calorie difference. So my metabolism will slow down that much. You could hardly see it.
So it slows down as you get older, but not that much where you'll gain thousands of pounds more.
Right. So it does slow down. So for the person who's like, I don't understand what's wrong with me, I literally eat the same thing I did 10 years ago when I put on 5 pounds. It's like, right, I guess it ain't that bad then. You put 5 pounds on in 10 years, your metabolism has been slowing down. And not for nothing. How could you ever say I'm eating exactly the same thing? A lot happens in 10 years. At 50, it goes down to 1289. So what's that, 50 calories? I can't count.
I forget the other number you said. We'll go with 50. Yeah.
At 60, it goes down to 1239, another 50 calories. So for you, bedridden, you are 1873. In 5 years, I couldn't remember how old you are. How old are you?
35. 35.
Don't care. Do you care?
No, I don't care. 35.
Okay, that's what I put. So in 5 years, you'll be 1848. So that's like a difference of 30. In another 10 years, you'll be 1798. In another 10 years at 60, you'll be 1748. So anyway, we don't need to throw all these numbers out. My point is, we're talking like 50 calories. Now, but let's compare it. When I'm 60, my metabolism will be slower by 110.
Which is still not enough where, you're gaining, because, you hear that joke all the time. You get older, my metabolism's slowing down, I'm gaining weight, but you're showing evidence that it's not enough where you should be
It's
gaining
not
a
enough that
substantial
you're
amount of weight.
broken. Like, don't get me wrong, it sucks. Of course it sucks.
Right.
But it's not enough that you're doomed. You're not like, oh, well, this is me.
Yeah, and as you get older, chances are you're probably eating worse because you're kind of, not that you don't care as much, but you're older and you're like, whatever,
Yeah,
and you're not as active, right? So it really probably comes down to more so that you're
sure.
not as physically active as you get older.
Sure. Well, and I'm glad that you even brought up the activity piece because even though I always joke with people, like, don't eat your workout, let's face it. So, okay, here are my calorie needs. Now, this is me bedridden, me doing everyday activities, go down to the basement, get the laundry, take the dishes out of the dishwasher, walk to work, stuff like that. I burn 200 calories, right? It doesn't speed up my metabolism. I don't want to call it speed up metabolism, but it makes my metabolism require more energy. Okay. So then I throw in a 500 calorie spin class. My metabolism now requires an additional 500 calories to simply maintain homeostasis. If I don't ingest those 500 calories, I now have a calorie deficit, and my metabolism will then revert to using up fat cells to maintain my balance. So my body is still satisfied with everything, and my fat cells shrunk just a little bit that day.
Right. So the other thing too is it doesn't matter. Does it matter what you eat and when,
No.
or how often you eat?
I mean, as far as your metabolism, I don't know. I feel like that's a loaded question. So, like, the three main things that you eat that feed your, so metabolism is also using, do you know the difference between macro and micronutrients?
Kind of, but why don't we explain it? Because maybe a lot of
Okay.
people.
And like this could be, I mean, I can do a really quick summary, but maybe this could be a topic one day too. Macro means big and micro means small. So macro is the things that we need most of. And these three things make up your calories: your fat, your lipids, or your fat is your lipids, your protein, and your carbs. So your body needs those to give you calories to feed your body with energy. And then you have micronutrients, which is things on a smaller scale. So that's going to be your vitamins, your antioxidants, your electrolytes. So your body needs those too. Now, as far as fat loss is concerned, no, it doesn't matter. I mean, my stance on it. Like, don't let yourself get hungry. There's so many other components to it. But to really simplify your question, I'm going to say no. If you saved, what did I say? 1873. If you saved all of your calories at night and you ate 1873, that would not matter as far as weight loss is concerned. Now, your metabolism will do other things though. Your metabolism all day would be burning the fat to get energy. Your muscles would be using glycogen to get some energy. But at the end of the day, once you got that 1873, and it would send it back to where it used it from.
So when you say,
that's simple, but does that make sense?
Yeah. So when you tell people they should be eating 3 to 5 meals a day, it's not because of your metabolism. It's just so that you're not, so A, you get energy, B, you don't overeat, and C, Yeah, I mean, those main things, right? It's so that you don't overeat, so you have energy, right? Because that's what a lot of people say is, oh, you need to eat every 3 to 5 hours for your metabolism. Is that true? Like it keeps your metabolism going?
Your metabolism, again, your metabolism is like more complex than we realize, and your metabolism will then release a hormone that sends a signal that says you need to eat, and if you don't eat, then your body is having to use glycogen to have the energy, and then because you haven't had carbs, your body then is going to the liver and releasing carbohydrates into the bloodstream so that the brain's able to think. Like there's so many pieces to it. So I feel like when we talk about metabolism, you're like, are we talking about calories in, calories out, and the metabolism that requires that, or are we talking about overall body function? You know?
Yeah, I guess more calorie. That's a good question. Yeah. I mean, I just know I've heard that a lot, that you need to eat 3 to 5. I don't know if you've
You
ever
don't
said
need to. I don't really even here's the thing. I ask people to do that because we have too much food available. If you don't eat all day and you think you're fine and it's because you were busy with work or whatever, you will make up for it later. It is far too easy to overeat. Far too easy, right? Like all you would need is like one trip to McDonald's. Or how about for my health nuts out there, like one trip to Chipotle. Like I don't care what your food of choice is. I don't care if you're vegan, vegetarian, keto. It is far too easy to overeat. So that's why I ask people, don't really try not to go more than 3 to 4 hours without eating. Not to mention, it's good to get the nutrients you need. You know, like if you're working out and you need 100 grams of protein in a day, how are you getting it if you're not eating all day? If you're supposed to get antioxidants from fruits and vegetables, then how are you getting it? Like you're not going to get it. But I don't think I don't really think humans are supposed to eat all day long. But we don't live in the same world. We were hunting and we were gathering and we didn't have refrigerators. Like even if you were busy all day long, like there's got to be a reason our liver gives off glucose into the bloodstream, because we were used to not eating, but we don't want those hunger hormones anymore that make you like chase a
hangry.
fox down.
Yeah, make you hangry.
Yeah, we don't want that. I don't want you to have that. The more you have that, the further away you're getting from the results that you want.
That's just a common theme that comes up in all our episodes. It's our DNA and our ancestries and how like our body was designed for back in the day, and now things have changed.
Things
And
have
there's so
changed
much
dramatically.
food. Yeah.
I don't know if I ever said this to you. I always used to say like, here we are, but like if you really took a snapshot of like all of human existence, it looks nothing like this. But I was either reading a book or listening to a podcast. I think it was a podcast. It was probably a TED Talk. And this woman, she was talking about our eating practices and why we struggle with hunger and all of that. And she goes, look at it like this. She was like, here's a snapshot of where we are right now in life, like all of us. And she said, picture getting on a plane and taking a flight to Los Angeles. And she goes, you want to know what life looks like? That's it. She said the rest of the flight to Los Angeles was how we got here. Like,
oh, wow,
right. And so at such a quick, no wonder we don't know how to eat. We are bombarded with all this information about food, but we don't really understand it. We're not supposed to truly be here. I mean, it's cool that we're here, you know?
Yeah, and all the marketing and advertising and it goes into
You're feeding off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 3 big meals a day is I don't know who started that either, but that's a myth. You know, you have to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, I mean, I guess you have to have smaller portions. You have to have them, but not the portions that we eat.
Yeah. I mean, so the only thing that can be said is like the plate that I showed you when we first met. And it's the same thing that I go over with all my patients, talking about food groups and portions. That's the best that the USDA came up with. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
It's funny. Like I'll shut these things off and then they start again. I don't know.
Well, your
I
phone
told you,
probably might be synced to your computer, I guess.
I'm technologically impaired. Um, that plate is the best representation of eat these food groups at these serving size to reach optimal nutrition for a functioning metabolism. And like, it's good enough. A person eats like that and you take a look at their health stats and their blood work and they're good.
Well, I think as we wrap it up here, I think I want to say something, and I think we'll see if you agree. But I think one of the biggest things I've learned from this is that not that having a slow metabolism is a myth, but it really just comes for as far as weight loss. It really just comes down to input versus output, right? That's really like people have a slow metabolism, but most of them don't, and a lot of times it's just input versus output.
Yeah. Oh, can I bring something up real quick?
Yeah, it's your
I
show.
would like to say this too for anyone that's listening and going and like picturing this being about themselves. Often when I find that someone's like, I'm telling you, there's something wrong with my metabolism, like I eat like damn near perfect every day. 9 times out of 10, when I really take a hard look, what they meant was I eat damn near perfect Monday through Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's easy, so easy on the weekends to just eat whatever you want.
Far too easy. Right.
Or even if like they might be eating something and they don't realize it, like drinking soda or
Oh,
like
sure.
sour cream.
So eating what your husband's been making for dinner because he's really healthy, but he's heavy-handed with olive oil. I mean, a tablespoon of olive oil is 120 calories. You know,
Yeah, so I think that would probably be the biggest takeaway from this, right? Is that it's probably not your metabolism.
it's not your metabolism. Yeah, and
So
even if it is, it isn't.
right, it's
Like,
not as you get older, it's not enough where you should be gaining thousands of pounds.
sure, like you might have a slower metabolism. You might look at the rest of your family and go, literally, we're all built the same way. But that doesn't mean that you don't have a set point, and that if you ate fewer calories than that set point, that you wouldn't lose. And
Right.
it's not hard to find that set point. And that set point isn't even going to be that far. Like, let's say someone really did download the app I talked about or reached out to me and was like, just for the sake of like an experiment, I'm like dead serious. I want to try this and I want to see how true it is. It wouldn't be hard to figure out, you know?
Right. It's all input versus output.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was another great. I'm glad we picked this topic. I think we always have great topics that
I
like
do too. I'm
even
always
if
like, oh, what are we gonna say? And then like by the end, I'm like, oh.
yeah. So even if you're just trying to be healthy, I think learning about your metabolism is good. It's not, we're trying not to do shows that are just about weight loss because not everyone's
No,
just
it's
trying to
not
lose
just
weight.
about weight loss. I mean, someone could listen to this and make it about weight gain.
Yeah.
The two of you out there.
Well, we appreciate you guys watching and listening. I want to remind you that we do have our email address where you can send us questions or feedback or make fun of us, whatever. So make sure you email mindbodyfoodpod@gmail.com. That's POD. I'll have all the links in the description. And just remember, we're on YouTube and all podcast platforms. So if you want to watch us or listen to us, as far as Jillian, how can people, if they want to hire
Yeah.
you for a session, or where
Yeah.
can they find you? All that good stuff.
Follow me on Facebook. I am Nutritionista. On Instagram, I'm Nutritionista_1. So follow me and please like all my things.
And any new followers who might not be familiar with Jillian, she also does remote, like even if you're
Yeah.
not in the area, you could do like a FaceTime or a Zoom with
Yeah,
her. You don't
I
have
do
to
virtual or in person. If you are local, I'm located in Hatboro, Pennsylvania, the suburbs of Philadelphia.
And as far as me, I have another podcast called Coaches and Content where it's about digital marketing, how to grow your business, stuff like that. Jillian was actually like my second guest on there, so you can listen to that. And I also just created a free guide to teach you how to start your own podcast, because that's what my company does. And yeah, Jillian, we'll have to get you some type of guide. Well, I want to talk to you about that. But yeah, my company produces podcasts like this. So if you want to learn how to do it yourself, you go to my website, coachesandcontent.com, completely free. You can download the guide. It'll teach you how to do it. So if you have any questions, let me know. Feel free to download it. And again, we appreciate you guys for watching and listening. And we'll be back next week with another episode.
Thank you, guys.